my class in Dr. Montero. I'm sorry if you can hear trucks and stuff. I'm outside of my apartment because I have no room in my apartment to administer this assessment. So I'm going to do the P-body. I am administrating the object manipulation portion of the P-body. This is my client. He is 5 years old. So that means I'm going to start at 53 to 64 months of age on the P-body of this section. So the first thing I'm going to have Anthony do is, with a tennis ball, I'm going to have him throw it underhand and see if he can go past 12 feet throwing the ball. Okay, Anthony, so here is a tennis ball. I want you to throw the ball as far as you can underhand, okay? Perfect. Awesome. Good job, Anthony. All right, so the next thing I'm going to have Anthony do is we're going to toss the tennis ball overhand on a target behind the camera. Okay, come here. All right. Do you see the target on the wall? Okay. Throw the ball and hit the target like I did. So I'm going to show you first, then you're going to do it, okay? You're going to go overhead. Okay? So you try. Perfect. Good job. The next section that I'm going to have Anthony complete is using one hand, bounce the tennis ball so it bounces and hits the wall once. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate it first. So you're going to take the ball, Anthony, you're going to bounce it on the floor and then hit this wall, okay? So it's going to look like this. Okay? Alright, so bounce the ball like I did. So the next portion we're going to do is I'm going to stand 5 feet in front of my client, and we're just going to catch, Anthony's going to have to catch the small tennis ball. Okay, so I'm going to turn this so you guys can see. So, this is about 5 feet. Okay, so I want you to catch the tennis ball. Good try. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna kick a stationary ball. So the ball is gonna be placed 6 inches in front of my child, and he's going to have to kick it at least 12 feet. Okay. So I want you to kick the ball like I did. All right, and the last part of this test is I'm gonna have Anthony catch the ball again, but this time the tennis ball is going to bounce on the floor and then he's gonna catch it with one hand. Okay? Okay, let me move the camera so you can see. So I'm gonna bounce it on the floor. I'm gonna bounce the tennis ball on the floor and you're gonna have to catch it with one hand. Okay, ready? Set. Good job. And that includes the P-body hand manipulation portion of the exam. Thank you. So now that the assessment is over, now I'm just going to talk about the scores Anthony received. So this is my test booklet. His chronological age was 5 years, 9 months, and 21 days. And his raw score on the object manipulation came to 42. So when you open up the test booklet, we started at 53 to 64 months because 5 years of age comes to 60 months. So that's why we started here. And as you see, the first 3 test, he scored a 2. This is known as the basal level. This is when the child receives a score of 2 on 3 items in a row. So what that tells us is that since he was able to get those 3 2s in a row, we can assume that Anthony is able to complete all of the items before this. So then we would take 2 times 21, because the last one he scored a 2 on was test 21. So we would do 2 times 21, which would give us the raw score of 42. So then the last 3, he scored a 0. So that is known as the ceiling level. Once the child receives a score of 0 on 3 items in a row, we stop the test, and that is their score. So then we go over to the manual, and we find 42 under object manipulation. So 42 comes out to a standard score of 9. So then we go to the age equivalents in the manual. We find object manipulation. We go to 42, and a score of 42 is an age equivalent of 52 months. So this indicates that Anthony is below average for his age in object manipulation. So he's in about a 4-year-old child. So for Anthony, the goals that I came up with, 1 was child will demonstrate 3 different movements 4 out of 5 trials to improve praxis skills during functional activities. The second one I came up with was child will demonstrate catching tennis ball 4 out of 5 trials to improve gross motor coordination in 6 months. So 2 areas that may be difficult for Anthony is bilateral coordination. You need bilateral coordination to catch. You need fine motor to catch the tennis ball with one hand. You need a lot of upper extremity strength and range of motion to bounce the tennis ball. It has to do with visual motor as well. So there's a lot of areas covered in this section. 2 interventions that I might use in the clinic. One may be, I like to do animal walks, so like bear crawls, crab walks. This will help improve the praxis skills and will help the client reach the goal of being able to demonstrate 3 different movements, whether it be like lift your hands, touch your head, and hold it for 10 seconds, or hold a yoga pose. Another intervention I might do is having the child stand on a wobble disc and put rings onto a cone, like match the colors of the rings onto the colored cones while standing on the wobble disc. This will work on balance and strengthening. It will work on core strength. It will work on visual motor. You can hold the rings in different planes and have the child reach for the rings so they're crossing midline. This will help improve their gross motor and the visual motor and all those skills you really need to be able to catch a tennis ball, holding a ring for your fine motor. So that will work on short-term goal 2. So some clinical observations I observed in my child during this assessment was Anthony kind of, when he was standing, had a wide base of support. So this might be because he has a decrease in balance, so he has a wider base to compensate for having decreased balance. He has a wider stance, so he has better balance. Then I noticed that he had difficulty catching the tennis ball. I observed he wasn't really looking at the ball when it was thrown to him. He was kind of just staring up at me when I went to throw the ball. So I think that's a major issue on why he didn't catch the ball, because he was more focused on me than the actual object. 2 recommendations that can be done in Anthony's home, natural environment. Again, just going to like the playground, his mom can take him. He has a swing set outside, so just going outside and doing like the monkey bars while his mother holds on to him. That's really good for upper body strengthening and coordination. Playing kickball with his siblings, that's a very fun game. They can go in the backyard, and that will work on his lower extremity coordination because he had difficulty kicking the ball in the air during the assessment. So that's a fun game. It's not really work. He would get to kick the ball and run the bases. And again, that's working on hand-eye coordination, endurance, strengthening, and everything that he needs to improve in this sub-test of the Peabody. So in addition to the assessment, we had a look at the sensory profile. In this child, I'm going to assume that he is more than others on the profile. This child may be more into their environment and exploring the environment, crashing into walls and chairs to get that proprioceptive input. They're really sensory seeking. They may be picky eaters because they're really, the intense sensory input from the food may make it difficulty for this child to eat. So I'm assuming this because the child had difficulty like standing still and being able to catch the ball. So this tells me that they're looking for some type of sensory input, whether it be the proprioceptive or vestibular input. So for Anthony, it may affect him. He's age 5, so he's going to start to get ready for kindergarten. So in school, this may affect him to complete tabletop activities because he's not going to be able to sit in a chair for very long. And it just really decreases his focus on the task because all his body wants is that sensory input. So to help this child in therapy, you could do preparatory activities on a swing for that vestibular input, having him jump on a trampoline, rolling him up into a burrito with a blanket and rolling a ball on top of him for the proprioceptive input, just so his body can get regulated, and that way he's able to focus on the task because his sensory needs are met before we do an activity, such as catching a ball, standing still and trying to catch it, or eventually school-related activities at a table. So some strategies. An environmental recommendation is when he does get into school, when he has to sit at a chair, maybe a therapy ball would be better. That way he can bounce or rock. Or having like a therapy band wrapped around the bottom of his chair. That way he's able to kick it to still get that input that he's wanting. So a compensatory technique we can do with this child is, again, the swing is really good. We can have him sit on the swing instead of sitting in a chair to complete like a fine motor activity. We can have him on the swing doing the same activity. That way he's getting the input that he needs for vestibular input, but he's also able to focus on the task instead of having to sit still in the chair. A parent recommendation is, since he's really seeking that input, I'm getting those like Under Armour, like athletic tight clothing, long sleeves. That way his body is getting that proprioceptive input throughout the day. You could also use a weighted vest, but I really like the long sleeve shirts better, just so they're getting that compression. Yeah, so I hope you guys liked my video, and have a Merry Christmas.